This is a Hope 1032 podcast.
As followers of Jesus, in whom all things were made, we acknowledge the Darug people as the traditional custodians of the country on where this podcast is recorded. We recognise their continuing connection to the land and waters and thank them for protecting this land and its ecosystems since time immemorial. We pay our respects to elders past, present and future, and we extend that respect to all First Nations peoples listening today.
I fell for a mile, I suppose, a kilometre, and I felt like I was in a washing machine. The other ski stayed on, which it shouldn't have, and as I was going down, I thought, this is it. This is it. I'm finished.
I'm Georgia, and welcome to Finding Hope, the podcast that reminds you of the good in the world. Each episode tells the story of someone who has found real hope in challenging times and made the world a better place. Episode 49, Iona Rossely. Iona is a teacher, speaker, author, and former international sporting champion. She's represented Great Britain in speed skiing, and she rode for 12 years on the Irish Equestrian Team. She's authored 2 books, her autobiography, Racing on Empty, and her latest release, which is called The Unexpected, a 40-day devotional for living with unexpected times. Iona has also been the coordinator of the Global Sustainability Network, an interfaith-led organisation relating to anti-slavery, and she's organised high-profile events at the Vatican, Westminster Abbey, and most recently, the United Nations in New York. Iona is also a lay minister for the Anglican Church in Australia, and she currently lives on a farm in the Northern Rivers with her husband Jeff and many animals. It is an honour to have her on the show today to talk about her incredible life and how God showed up for her after she shattered her leg in a skiing accident. Let's meet her. Now, Iona, before we get to celebrating and talking about your latest book, I think for listeners to really understand your journey, we need to go back a fair bit. Let's go right back to your childhood, because faith and God and religion has always been a part of your life, but definitely in a very different way than it is now. Can you share a little bit about how religion kind of shaped your upbringing?
Yeah, my parents were Catholic. I say fairly strict Catholic upbringing, and we being myself and my other 2 sisters went to a convent school, a boarding school for young ladies, run by Irish nuns. Surrounded by tradition, rituals, and God for me then was someone who lived in a history book. And if he was alive, then I just thought him as a God of judgment and wrath and living on a far distant planet and didn't really want anything to do with us, really. When I did leave the convent school, I ran from religion because it became, for me, religion was then about do's and don'ts and laws and restrictions, and it all just and I was quite a rebel, so they did try and expel me a couple of times from the convent, but my father would step in and speak nicely to them, and they decided to keep me on till I did my O-levels, which is, I don't know what the equivalent is that in Australia. But when I left boarding school, I was running away from anything to do that remotely looked like religion.
So what did you do when you left school?
I actually went straight into art college. And going from a very strict boarding school into art college was a real, wow, it was going... I can't even explain. And I was so looking forward to it, but I actually really struggled. I struggled to make friends. I didn't struggle to make friends in boarding school, but it's totally different lifestyle. I just wasn't used to it. I did a year of art and foundation, then I did a BA in fine art, but I only managed 6 months, and I decided, nope, this is not what I want to do. I want to become a ski instructor, so I jumped on a plane and went to Switzerland instead.
So this was not out of the blue by any means. Sport was a major part of your life. Would you say it was kind of like a refuge for you in boarding school?
It was, because at the age of 11 when I went, I was so shy. If you spoke to me, I just go red and hide behind my mum. And when I went as the eldest, I left my 2 sisters behind for the first, 7, 8 months in boarding school. I found it so difficult. It's a very harsh environment when you've got so many girls. It was lots of bullying, and the nuns were great. They had a great education, but I found, I suppose you'd call it an escape route. My confidence came when I realized I was good at sport. So netball, running, hockey, horse riding. I've been riding since I was about 2-3 years old anyway. So we were riding at the weekends. That actually created, it was almost like that was my personality. That was who I was. I excelled in it. So I just hung on to that through my whole time in the convent school. That was who I was. Sports was my identity.
Okay, so you moved to Switzerland, you became a ski instructor, and this is where you discovered speed skiing, which I say this phrase, Iona, and my heart starts racing. Like, it sounds so dangerous. What actually is speed skiing?
Well, speed skiing is literally going straight down a hill without turning. There's no turning. Oh. And it's done on what they call a 1 kilometer track. We call it a kilomètre lancé in French, which means 1 kilometer. And you start off normally on a 45-degree angle, and it's a bit like jumping out of a plane, I suppose. It's a bit like free falling, but you've got skis on your feet. And we have the Darth Vader helmets, the skin type suits for your aerodynamics, and fairings that go on the back of your legs. It was, I loved it, but I only got into it as a prank. I used to watch these guys go down, girls and guys going down, thinking, what is the point? What is the point of going down a slope at that speed? And the falls were horrendous. I was like, why would you do that? So I was chief ski instructor at the time, and I had 8 or 9 instructors working for me. And they said, wouldn't it be fun just to do like a quarter of the way up the speed skiing track to see, how it felt? And I was like, no, it wouldn't be fun. It wouldn't be fun. Oh, but we're all going to do it. And I felt, well, I can't look like a chicken because I'm the boss. But okay, we'll do it. So as ski instructors, we got a permit. We were given helmets and extra long skis, which they're about 2 meters long, 8 foot, 2 meters, and really wide skis. And I was like, how on earth do you even turn these things? So we arranged on our day off to do this, and they're all excited about it. So great, we'll meet you with the marshal at the top at around 10 o'clock in the morning. So I get there, and there's no one there. Oh. No one. I'm there on my own. And I realized that I'd been, I don't know what.
You've been duped.
That's the word. And I stood there, and the marshal it's all in French, and I'm still learning French. And he goes, you look a bit worried. I said, yes. And I said, how can I get down? He goes, well, you ski. I said, no, if I don't want to ski, how do I get down? He goes, you have to walk. And I knew they were all at the bottom laughing. And my legs were like jelly. Anyway, he said, no, I'll show you. So he went into what they call an egg position. And he got down. He said, this is what you do. You've got to go as low as possible, and you'll go really fast. And I said, great. But what happens if you fall? And he just said, no, not advisable. I was like, okay, I will do this. I'm fine. My legs were like jelly. And I was like, no, I'll show them. I can do this. So I managed to turn the skis around very gingerly, pointed them down the slope, and started off. And you're not on 45 degrees. This is probably in speed ski in terms of baby slope. But I still did in miles an hour. I know what it was in miles. I don't know what kilometers. I did 96 miles per hour, which is...
Oh, that's ridiculous.
So I went straight down, and I was on the way. I was like, I don't think I breathed on the way down because I was scared, but it was a nice, I suppose it's like you would probably relate it to being on a really scary roller coaster. You know, when you stop, you go, that's great, I can do it again. That kind of risk, fear feeling. When I got to the bottom, they were all there laughing, and I took my helmet off, and it took me a while before I could speak. And I just said, wow, I think I'm going to do that again. And they all looked quite disappointed.
They wanted to break you. They didn't.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, it was just really fluky thing. So if anyone ever tells you, you know, think about it. If someone dares you to do something, you know, obviously not too stupid. But that was the start of my speed skiing. It was just so amazing how I got into it that way. And Les Arcs, where I was skiing, they helped sponsor me. And it just went from there. I went, did a race, and then I got sponsored. My first race, I won the British Overseas Ladies competition. And then I got sponsored by Smirnoff Vodka, as you do, and Alfa Romeo cars, so no drinking and driving. Didn't like vodka anyway, so that's fine. So yeah, it just really took off from there, and I just became obsessed with the speed. And you do get scared every time you're up there, but it's a nice. I don't know how to explain it. It's a fear that I enjoyed, and when I got to the bottom, you'd be like, wow, did I really just do that? Yeah, it was a special time. Yeah.
Iona was one of the best in her sport. Life couldn't be better. But she still found herself feeling empty.
Every sports person, every athlete, every professional athlete would totally relate to this. You win a race, you do well in a race or competition, whatever you're doing, and the next morning you wake up and the joy of victory, the joy of winning is wow, but it doesn't last that long, and it doesn't really, I don't know, I just felt there's got to be more, because as soon as you finish that, you know, you spend a couple of days thinking, wow, that was great, and then suddenly you're back working again for the next competition, knowing that there's always other people champing at your feet to try and do better than you and win. So you come off the roller coaster and you get back on it. And it's just this never ending. And you sometimes after a while you go, what am I doing? Why am I doing it? Why don't I feel, I've won. Why don't I feel like that hole inside me is complete? Because you've dedicated your life or that year to doing that one competition, and you end up feeling quite sort of fragile and empty, that there should have been more and it's not there.
I often think of the, Olympians that win gold medals and then they come home, and it's like, they speak of the emptiness that they feel afterwards. One day in the World Championship qualifiers, no less, Iona, probably one of the biggest moments of your career, it all came quite literally crashing down. What happened?
Yeah, that was it was just a string of very strange events. I woke up that morning and I'd lost my voice, which was weird. But I wasn't worried about that. Well, I was worried about that my ski technician who looked after me had got flu. And the ski technician is really important. He's the guy that puts the bindings that are on your skis, adjust them to your boots, because the last thing you want is one of those to come off when you're skiing. He wasn't there because he was so ill, and I had another guy step in. Didn't really worry about it too much. I'd already done one run on the skis and they were fine. I wasn't able to talk to anybody because I've lost my voice, which was bizarre. I know I do talk a lot, but I wasn't expecting it on the day of the race. And when I started off, you had 200 of the best skiers in the world, all at this event. And I was all excited about it. And when I started off, I picked up speed very, very, very quickly because we were on a really steep part of the slope. And within a couple of seconds, my right ski had just come off. I don't know how fast I was going. I'm on one ski, traveling down a 45-degree slope, and my right ski, I could just see taken off on its own. And I did the wrong thing. They say you're supposed to just collapse and just roll over in a ball and go with it. And instead, this must be the Irish in me, I put my heel out to stop myself. Well, you can't stop yourself at 160 kilometers an hour. And as I put my heel down, it shattered my leg in 9 places. And then I fell for a mile, I suppose, a kilometer. And I felt like I was in a washing machine. The other ski stayed on, which it shouldn't have. And as I was going down, I thought, this is it. This is it. I'm finished. And it was weird. I didn't know God, but I felt God's hand over me. Even though I didn't know him, I think God's got something to do with this. And not in a nasty way. I just felt, and I thought about who's going to look after my dog. Who's going to look after Toby? And the next minute, it went all quiet. And I was actually amazed that I was still breathing and I was still alive. And I managed to vaguely get my head off the ground, and I looked down at my legs and I saw, one leg probably didn't even look like it existed anymore. And I just passed out. I think your body shuts down when the pain is which is a blessing. I have to admit, you go into shutdown. So I was rushed into surgery. I had 8 hours while they literally put my leg my right leg back together with metal. So I had a long metal plate and 28 screws in my knee, and because the whole of my tibia and knee and fibia had all separated. So. But if you're going to break a leg, this would have been the place to do it, because Albertville in France has got one of the best orthopedic clinics, surgeries, hospitals in the world. And they just amazing how they put my leg back together. Amazed. And I woke up the next morning, my mum was there, and I actually had quite a sense of peace because I was still amazed that I was alive. And the doctors told me, that's it now. You will never be able to do any more sports. You'll limp for the rest of your life. You will need a knee replacement shortly. This is going to be a long, long journey to recovery.
How did that journey go? Because you spent some time in Cyprus recovering, is that right?
I did. My father lived in Cyprus. So after the initial period in hospital that seemed forever, and when I was able to hop around on crutches, I went to Cyprus to stay with my father. And that's when I started horse riding again, which I probably shouldn't have. I used to hop across to the horse and climb on and go, yep, no, off we go. He's got legs. Don't need mine. But I did, my physio, She was amazing. She said, why don't you join us in our Bible study? And I was like, I was bringing back like warning bells of convent school. And she was lovely. And I thought, no, I'll go and have a try. And they were just such lovely people. And I got connected with this group. Then I started going on retreats with them into the mountains. And I would say I met Jesus, and I was like so enthusiastic. I think finally I've met the person I know that Jesus is what I was missing in my life when I was skiing. That is the missing link. That's the emptiness. I needed God, the person who created me. And I was so excited. I tried to register into Bible college. They wouldn't accept me. And I got a little bit upset with that. And after about, I don't know, it wasn't long, 7, 8, 9 months, I walked away from Jesus because I couldn't let go of my identity as being a sports person. And I didn't want to be a clone. And I was worried because I didn't trust him. So I jumped on a plane, went back to England and bought myself a racehorse and decided to become a jockey, even though the doctors told me I couldn't do riding, I couldn't do this. I felt I could still do it. I was physically fit. Okay, I was maybe limping a little bit. And I walked away from Jesus because I didn't want him to take away my identity. I was really worried about that.
So you bought a racehorse, you wanted to become a jockey, and you ended up doing endurance racing, which is that what it sounds like? Is that just really long horse rides?
Very. 160 kilometers in a day.
And are they galloping the whole time? Are they allowed to walk? Is that a really stupid question?
No, it's not actually. It's actually, endurance racing is run like car rallying. That's probably the car. You do 30 kilometers, come back in. You've got a vet, not that cars have vets, but they have maintenance. You've got a vet standing by. They check the horse's heart rate. They check the horse. If the horse is okay, then they have a break for half an hour, 40 minutes, and then they go back out again. It's tough. It took us maybe 3-4 years to bring. I think we had 8 or 9 really good international horses that traveled around the world. So I ended up on the Irish team. It was fast in Dubai, where we did most of the endurance. You would probably be cantering most of the time, but the horses were so fit, really fit. Then when you go into Europe, it's slightly different because the terrain is different. So I ended up doing the World Championships, the European Championships, the World Equestrian Games. Had some amazing horses. I think we at one point had 19 horses in our stable. So you have this like turnaround of, you're bringing young horses forward because it takes you 45 years to get them ready for the big races. So you start off at 30 kilometers a race, then 60, then 80. And, the vets are really good. They will not let you, even when you cross the finish line first, if the horse's heart rate is too high or they're lame, you're disqualified.
Oh,
so
wow.
I love the sport because I love animals. Obviously, we have it's like Noah's Ark here in Australia. But it was a really special way of bonding with your horse. I just really, really enjoyed it.
There came a moment, though, it's almost like the second sporting moment of your life where kind of everything came crashing down a little bit. What happened? One of your horses, there was an incident before a race.
Yeah, well, I'd actually met when we moved to France. We moved from Dubai to France. So to go backwards a little bit on the story, because I met a Christian couple who had horses. They had Lipizzaners and Andalusians, a lovely couple. And they were very strong Christians, but a very different type of Christian I've never met before. They lived and breathed Jesus like he was walking with them. Like he was so real for them. And they prayed into everything. And I used to watch them thinking, wow, this is so different. This is not religion as I see religion. And I became a Christian, I'd say. We started doing Bible study. I did the Alpha course with them in their home. So I had 2 years, 3 years of studying the Bible, praying, doing all and Jesus was an important part of my life, but I didn't realize he wasn't the most important part of my life. And I kept saying to him, I just feel like there's something missing again. Like I'm not joining all the dots here. There's something not quite right. And I couldn't work it out. And what it was is that I was always putting I was in control of everything. God was important, but I wouldn't let him into taking total control of my life. So I thought, no. It's enough that I have this balance, but God stepped in and showed me, no, it's either this or you don't have me type thing. So it happened when I had always qualified as one of the 6 Irish riders for all the big events, the World Equestrian Games, the Europeans, World Championships. And you have to qualify your horse in a qualifying race. So we decided to go to Portugal. We took Bizu, who's one of my favorite mares. Actually, she's Australian. Beautiful, stunning. Love her. We went to Portugal, took us 3 days to drive there. We had a couple of days before the big race, and I thought, wasn't worried about it. She's cruised the 160 kilometers without a problem, I thought. The day before the race, I was out just riding her, and she started foaming from the mouth. She started sweating, and it was like white foam all over her and started shaking. And I was like, what on earth is happening to my horse? And I jumped off. We called the vets, and in horse terminology, they call it a tie-up, which is where this whole muscle system goes into spasms. And you can lose a horse like that. I was traumatized by what happened to her. And obviously I wasn't going to race. But I didn't realize it would hit me so badly. We obviously got her right and the vets, and we got her on fluids, and she was stable. And I remember going back to the hotel that night, and I was so angry. And I was angry with God because I had a relationship with Jesus, and I felt, he allowed this to happen. And I just felt that he just walked away. And I remember getting onto the phone to my husband, and he was like, he's in Bahrain. And I was like, oh, it isn't. He said, it's okay. There'll be another race. No, Jeff, there will not be another race. I needed to qualify for the World Equestrian Games in Kentucky, in the US, and now I can't. And obviously my horse comes first, but I was still heartbroken but I didn't realize how much it affected me. I got back to the hotel room, and I remember picking up my suitcase and throwing it around the room. And I was like a teenager having an absolute tantrum. And I was just angry at God because I knew that he had allowed this to happen. And it took me, we had the long drive back with Bizu, and I had my crew with me who were amazing. And I just totally shut down. I was just, no, I'm not having this. You can't do this to me. And I remember driving up with the horse to the farm, and we got her into bed and settled her down. And then my Christian friends, Terry and Sylvie, turned up at the doorstep with wine and food, and they knew about what happened. They said, it's okay. Let's come in. We'll pray about it. We'll talk about it. I said, I don't want to pray. I'm not praying. Forget that. No, he's not listening to me. He's just doing his own thing. So the next morning, I was walking downstairs, going into the kitchen, and I felt like someone had died in the family. I felt like someone had ripped my heart out. They've taken just because I hadn't qualified. Anyone who's competitive would be able to relate. If you're not competitive, you might think I'm stupid, but it just meant so much to me. And God was just showing me where my priorities were. And as I walked into the kitchen, something strange happened. I saw my Bible and my do list. I have do lists everywhere because if I don't write it down, I don't do it. And my Bible was there. And it was like Jesus walked into the kitchen. And his overwhelming sense of love just covered me totally. And I just remember dropping down onto my knees and crying, but crying out of joy, not sadness, because I realized that I'd actually left Jesus. I'd left him and he'd never left me, ever. He'd never. And I know he allowed this to happen so that he could draw me closer to him. And it was then that I realized that I no longer wanted to be in this world and be in control of it, because I can't be in control of it. The only way I knew there and then was for me to live in peace and freedom was to let go. And as an athlete, a competitor, someone who's so linked into their identity as we all are, it's not, I was like, I don't want to do this without you. You can have everything right now. And when I did that, it was like everything changed. My whole perspective on life changed. My outlook on life changed. And I felt all the stuff that I'd carried around with me about who I was, and people look at you, oh, she does this. It's just gone. There's no baggage. There's no change. There's no burdens. He just took everything away from me. And I just felt so much peace, so much freedom. And, in a split second, my whole life changed. I remember going, the next morning I called my husband in Bahrain. And the last time I'd spoken to him, I was like, spitting chips. I was not a happy bunny. And now I have made a decision. I'm going to wind down on the horses a little bit. And I think I'm going to enroll on a biblical studies course in South California. And he was like, he just went all quiet. He goes, what? Are you all right? I thought he'd fallen off his chair, but he hadn't. He was just in shock. He goes, maybe take a couple of days to think about it. I said, no, I didn't. I wanted to tell him face to face what happened. And when we did meet up a couple of weeks later, I just went through everything. And it did that whole experience of God stepping in was just amazing.
Iona did what she said she was going to do. She still loved animals, but she stopped endurance racing and she made room for Jesus in her life. She became a lay minister for the Anglican Church. She spent some time working for the Global Sustainability Network, an interfaith organisation fighting slavery. She wrote 2 books, her memoir, Racing on Empty, and most recently, a devotional called The Unexpected, a 40-day devotional for living with unexpected times. In the midst of all this, just before COVID struck, Iona and her husband Jeff moved to Australia, to a farm on the Northern Rivers. Here they've started what Iona believes is her greatest adventure yet, an outdoor farm church.
We've started an outdoor church on our farm, which happened in COVID. And it's grown and grown and grown. And that's my passion at the moment. It's just amazing. So people who don't want to go to church will come to the farm. We're outdoors under a pecan tree. It's called Prayer, Praise and Pecan. So it's registered as a non-profit organization, but it's a church. So we've run the Alpha course. It's just really special what God is doing. We stay very close to the Bible. We don't move off that. We are open to all denominations. There's a lot of people who are just seeking, who come. We end up with some very interesting people. It's just amazing. That's my love at the moment, and maybe writing a 3rd book about the last 10 years in Australia, which will probably be quite a funny one, for all the strange things that have happened in Australia. Funny one, but with God interlinked in it, because God gave us our sense of humour. And being Irish, we have sense of humour, we have to. especially when you get stuck here after, what was it? I left Dubai just to come here for 3 weeks, and I ended up here for 2 years. But in that time, the 2 books got written and launched, and we started pecan under the tree. So, God's always got a plan, and it's been an amazing couple of years.
It's incredible. And during that time, you actually got separated from your husband. Was it for almost a year?
11 months, and then he had to come and do that quarantine, which was awful. So he'd fly in and have to do 2 weeks quarantine, and then he was allowed on the farm. That went on. I think he did it. We only saw each other over 2 years, 3 times.
How did you cope with that?
Unfortunately, it's been like that since I've been married to him. Because even though I was in Dubai with him, every second week he's gone. He travels all over the world. So we trust each other 100%. We have a lot of people think it's a very strange relationship, but I've just come back from London and Zurich and Dubai where I was with him. He's back here next month. So we have this type of relationship that, it's a long distance relationship, but he's a bit like a hurricane, living with a hurricane. And I'd say 80% introvert, 20% party animal. I've changed a lot since COVID. I love my quiet time. I love Christian meditation. I love spending just time sitting with Jesus. And it's very difficult with Jeff because he began, have you finished yet? And
Can't put a time limit on God, please. Leave me be.
Yeah, at the moment, this is a season. I know things are going to change next year. I know we're going to be spending a lot more time together. I'm really excited about that because I know that our ministry for Jesus, whether it's global or just here, I don't know, is for me and Jeff together, which I'm very excited about. I just promised that God has made, and I believe that's going to be the case. So I'm very excited about that.
I feel like so many of us struggle, well, especially before COVID, kind of struggled with this silence, just being still. We busy our lives with a million different things. How did you cope with, you were away from Jeff for 11 months. You were here on the farm by yourself. I can imagine there would have been a lot of silence. Like, you're away from the city, you're away from noise in general, like physical silence, but there also would have just been a lot of kind of metaphorical silence as well, as the world kind of literally stopped. How did you like that?
Yeah. Yep. Yes.
Did you feel like it changed you?
I think it did. What did change me was I've always seen Australia as we have the most amazing farm here. We have 12 horses, 7 dogs, the cattle, the cats, 2 brave cats. It's quite but I've always seen it as a holiday home. When I was here during COVID and I went back to Dubai and London or whatever, I've suddenly realized how much I love this place. God changed, I think with everybody, he changed my heart for Australia. He changed my heart for the area that we live in. There's a Lebanese monk called Saint Charbel, and he said, God is in the silence. And he said, if you don't understand my silence, you will not understand my words. And when during COVID happened, and there was not a plane in the sky, there was no cars on the road, and you're sitting on your own in a farm in the middle of nowhere, you feel the presence of God, and I just felt God's hands wrapped around the earth, like he was, regardless of what we thought about COVID, he was still holding everyone together. And I know it was traumatic times, but during those traumatic times, many, many people, he would have been drawing them closer, because he just stepped in and showed people that, he's still in control. And I think, he says, we've got to keep our eyes on heaven and things above. And it was a time of contemplation, and it's changed me a lot. Yeah, but I'd say in a good way. Just, I do like my silence. It's very difficult when you've got 7 dogs. But
do you ever miss that rush that rush of adrenaline that sport gave you?
I do, but I do get that every morning when I ride we have 12 horses. So I'm riding probably 2 horses a day, and I've got 3 amazing girls who help me. And I tend to ride the real stupid ones. So I do get that adrenaline rush quite a lot. So,
trying to keep them together.
You never know what's going to happen. So I'm very aware now. I am still very competitive, and I've always said, oh, maybe I could do this. And, even at the age of 61, I'm still up for competing in any sport, definitely. But I know that would take away from what God has planned at the moment. And I just blessed that I can ride, have my horses, and we're out there, maybe you can round up a few cows and go off around the forest, which is great. I don't need much more than that. But do I miss the real? Yeah, I suppose I do. I suppose the nearest you can get to it is by going on a roller coaster at the fairground. But I think God always, I'm competitive for God now. That's the way I look at it. So.
Oh, what a fantastic way to finish up. Competitive for God. I love that. Iona Rossely, it has been a true pleasure to have you on the Finding Hope podcast. Thank you so much for sharing your incredible journey. Really appreciate your time.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Thank you to Iona for sharing her incredible story. To find out more about Iona's work, including the links for her 2 books, you can head to ionarossely.com, and that information is also in the show notes. I'm Georgia, and thank you for listening to this episode of Finding Hope. I'd love to hear your feedback. You can rate, review, and subscribe to this podcast and share it with your friends. Stories are always better when they're shared, and you never know what you can learn from someone else's journey. If you or someone you know has a story of hope to share and you'd like to be interviewed for the podcast, I'd love to hear from you. You can leave a comment on the Finding Hope page at hopepodcasts.com.au. For now, I'll leave you with this verse. Humble yourselves before the Lord, and he will exalt you. James 4, verse 10. Catch you next time.
This is a Hope 1032 production. Thanks for listening.